our Quantum Maestro. And we're going to give an update on the Maestro appliances, on the Quantum appliances and on the Maestro setup. Today's session will be given by Steve. A few housekeeping rules. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A, and we will answer them during or after the session. And afterwards, you will get a little survey. And if you want to have us contact you, please leave your contact details there, so we will get back to you afterwards. All right. So without further ado, I introduce Steve. Steve is one of our Belux engineers, and he is the subject matter expert on anything Maestro, scalable platforms, and high-end. And so he will present today. He will update us on the Quantum appliances and Maestro. So Steve, take it away, man.
Thank you for the nice introduction, Christoph. I'm gonna put my presentation on the screen. So good morning. I'm gonna start by giving my agenda. So I want to give an overview on the Quantum lineup and new appliances which we released recently. Next, I'm gonna give you a walkthrough on Maestro. I'm also going to discuss a couple of use cases which we experienced on Maestro, and also a small update on the upcoming features. First of all, we released new SMB appliances. They're now rebranded or renamed to Quantum Spark. And if we see in our Quantum Spark gamma, if I can call it that way, then we see that at the top right corner, we released two new appliances, a 1600 and an 1800 appliance, which are 1U appliances for the medium size business up to 2 gigabits of threat prevention throughput. Going a bit into the numbers on the 1600 and the 1800 appliances, what stands out here is that these appliances have SSD. At least on the 1800, it's already in there. For the 1600, it's an option, but notice that there is a lot of connectivity ports, which for a certain branch office can be really useful, because then maybe you don't need to put a switch there anymore. Going into Maestro now. So what we see today is that in data centers and networks, that our traffic is growing year over year. And this is now how our data centers look like. But on the other hand, we see also that the attack surface is increasing, there's more threats, and our traffic demand is increasing. But how are we gonna size our gateways? How are we gonna make sure that we can secure the increasing demand in traffic with a platform that is sustainable and can scale up in the future as with the business and protection needs? That's why Check Point released Quantum Maestro Hyperscale. It's already out for about 2 years now, and today I'm gonna deep dive into it with you guys. The new component which we have with Maestro, it's an orchestrator. So you see that it's a big switch with a lot of ports, and it's also running a Checkpoint OS on it. We can see this as the connectivity to the inside and the outside world, and as a sort of a load balancing mechanism which is running on there. The point with Maestro is that we can scale up. So let's, in this example, touch the 16,600 gateway, which has 17.6 gigabits of threat prevention throughput. What do? We add a second gateway and we double our throughput. And the point here is, which I would like to stress, that simply going to the data center, putting another appliance in the rack, connecting the downlink cables, and installation of the software, that additional gateway can process traffic within around 6 minutes. It's really quick to simply pop in another gateway, up to 52 appliances, and then we can reach really, really high throughputs. If I compare Maestro with what some of the competitors are offering, in this example, I have the biggest box there, the 286000 appliance, 4 of them, 2 orchestrators, and I can reach up to 120 gigabits of throughput. And if you see, with just 6 rack units, we have an amazing amount of throughput there. And if we then also look at the span, we can increase up to 1.5 gigabits, that 1500 gigabits of throughput, and our power efficiency is really amazing there. We don't need additional external load balancers. We don't have that much performance degradation because we have many gateways in a cluster. It's just hypersync, which makes sure that the sessions are not synced amongst all of the members in the security group. And that's what really makes Maestro a big game changer in the market. There's certain components and terms which are new in Maestro. I already mentioned it a second ago, a security group. Well, what is a security group? A security group is actually, in this example, what you see here, I have 5 gateways. Security group 1 consists of 2 gateways, which are playing together. They form one security gateway, and then security group 2, that security group has 3 members. And the point here is that in the management server, one security group, it counts as one gateway license. So we don't need to add 5 gateways here into the management server. There's one management object to manage the security group. It's one IP address, and that's how we manage the security group. We can have in the Maestro system, so in one orchestrator setup, we can have up to 8 security groups, up to 31 appliances in one security group, and up to 52 appliances in one Maestro setup. Cabling. We have downlinks and uplinks. So if you see in the picture, we have gateway interfaces, downlinks connected to one orchestrator, but also connected to the secondary orchestrator. Those interfaces going from the orchestrator to the gateways below, we call those downlinks. That's how the traffic gets from the orchestrator to the gateway in the security group. If we then look more into the details on how Maestro looks from the orchestrator side, the yellow ports, they're usually used to manage the security groups. So it's an SFP port and we plug it in, and that's how actually the management of the security groups is possible. So you don't need to connect the management port of a gateway in a security group. It's a connection which is made from the orchestrator and goes over the downlink cables to the gateways. We have blue uplink ports, and we then have pink sync ports, which can be used to sync between the orchestrators. The ports which are connected from the orchestrator to your switching environment, we call those uplink ports. So those are the ports where we configure IP addresses on. If I then give another example of how we could make a setup with Maestro, so we have 2 orchestrators and a couple of gateways in this example. And here we are going to make a logical implementation. So we will have a security group for our perimeter firewall, and then we have a security group for our internal segmentation. But what we can also do is we can create some VSs on that internal security group and even segregate more. we actually in our quantum lineup released a 16,600 HS and a 28,600 HS, which is 1U appliances. So the advantage here is that you don't need a lot of rack space, but you have a lot of power. So these gateways, they're built especially to be used in a Maestro setup. So growth on demand. So the thing with Maestro is that at a certain point, we want to scale up. If I then briefly touch at the quantum setup, again, all our security gateways, you will see that starting the 6200, we can use those gateways in a Maestro setup. And going all the way to the right, we have the 26 and the 28,000, which can be used. So whatever the business need is, there is a gateway which is capable of being used in Maestro. If we then take a couple of examples, so a 6600, we have there 3.7 gigabits of throughput. So those are actual customers which purchased Maestro, and it's a bit modified to the COVID situation we are in, and I want to briefly go through them with you guys. One example is a finance customer, which of course we needed all to start working from home. And yeah, the issue there was that the current setup couldn't manage that big amount of remote workers. So their current situation they were in, they had a VSX setup with MEP and multiple gateways deployed, and it simply couldn't cope with all the traffic. So what we did there is we started from scratch with a Maestro solution. We popped in 3 appliances, set up a couple of virtual systems, and they could immediately support their increased demand in remote workers. And the thing is here also as a takeaway that we offer them capacity and growth. And also this setup in the EMEA region will be used as a template for them to deploy Maestro in other geographical regions. A second example that I have is a European airline. So the thing is there that the airline business was struck hard during COVID, and they wanted to deploy a new gateway, but they wanted to start small. And if the business needs grew, then they could simply purchase additional appliances so they could cope also with that business. So actually they saved money by, in the first year, starting with a smaller gateway setup, a smaller Maestro setup. A third example that I have, I think it's one of the best, an international courier company. Of course, during the COVID-19 lockdowns, we all started ordering stuff and getting delivered at home. So they couldn't really predict how many throughput they needed. So they started with a new data center firewall. We put in Maestro setup, and we could immediately, if needed, cope with the unpredictable growth they were having. So how would Maestro look like if we would set it up? I have a short demo movie, which I will play, in which we will create a new security group. So here you see a Gaia web interface. We will log on and we will build a security group from the orchestrator. So we simply log on with our admin credentials. Our Gaia web admin page of the orchestrator is loading. So it looks familiar as a normal gateway. On the left side, we have unassigned gateways. In the middle, We create a topology, we give it IP addresses, we need to pop in some interfaces from the orchestrators at the uplink ports, which we will give IP addresses later. We slide in some of the gateways, we click apply, and at this moment, the gateways will be installed. And that's it. That's how simple and easy it is to create a security group. I also have a second example, which is scaling up. So what you see here in the picture is that we have 3 gigabits of throughput. We have 2 gateways, and you see that the throughput is even. So we have 1.5 gigs going through each of the appliances. We here have a third appliance, which is ready. I will start the movie and then you will see what happens. So we see the state changing. So now the gateway is active at the right. We immediately see that the throughput is spread evenly amongst the 3 appliances. So all of them, they are processing 1 gig. And that's simply how easy it is. But we can even add more. So we add 2 more. You will see the state changing at the right. So we go from detached to init. We see the state changing a couple of times to down. Now it's active. And at the left side, you see that now in the security group, we have 3 members. We start the traffic generator again. And then you will see that the throughput gets evenly distributed amongst 5 members. So we even increase the throughput to 10 gigs, and then you will see that is shared amongst the members equally. That's how easy it is to add additional gateways in the security group, and you see that they can all process traffic within a couple of minutes. Now I'm going to touch a bit on roadmap things, things which are in the oven at R&D. One of the features which is upcoming in R81.10 is mix and match. So at this moment, we can only in one security group, all the gateways need to be the same hardware type. But now in EA, we already have available the feature to mix and match different hardware type appliances. But how does that work? Well, if we take the appliance above type A, it has 12 cores. The appliance type in the B group, it has 40 cores. So we have a calculation being made on the orchestrator to make sure that appliance type A gets less of the connections compared to appliance type B. And it gets distributed amongst the members. So on the orchestrator, we have buckets, which is just like the matrix. You see a lot of numbers, and those are the actual gateways where the packets then get forwarded to on the downlink cables. I also have a second feature which is coming up, which is called Autoscale. What we have there is actually, we have a shop, for instance. We have physical security and an online web shop which needs security. And what are we going to do? Well, imagine that we have our web shop and traffic is increasing. So on the left, we will have unassigned gateways, which will be sitting there ready. And if a certain threshold then is being met, then we can assign that gateway into the web shop security group. But On the other hand, we can also have a threshold, which if we go below, then we remove a gateway from the security group. So that's called Maestro Autoscale. I'm gonna finish up with a couple of takeaways. So Maestro actually isn't that difficult or complex. It's a bit different at the start, but it's really easy to configure security groups, to add additional gateways. So yeah, that's my takeaway for that. On the other hand, what we see is that Maestro is not just for really big enterprises. It's for whichever vertical the customer is in. We can handle modest throughput. We can handle really enormous amount of throughput, and we can use Maestro in many situations. It's something which is scalable, customizable. You see that we can even do VSX on top of a security group. And the thing that we learned is that it's really amazing to handle remote access VPN as well. So I have also a white paper available, and we have some more information on our website. Thank you. I will.
All right. Thank you, Steve. By the way, Steve, we already have one question.
Okay.
The question is, must the appliances be of the same type?
Yeah, correct. So if you have, at this moment, if you have a 6600 gateway and you want to add in another gateway, it must be a 6600 gateway. But in EA available, we have the mix and match Maestro feature, but it will become GA in R81.10.
All right. But today they have to be the same appliances per security group, but for different security group, they can be different appliances, right?
Yeah.
So you could have a perimeter gateway set up with different appliances, for example, than your data center security group within the same Maestro environment.
Yeah, correct.
All right. All right. Are there any other questions? Now is the time. Oh, again, will there be programs if appliances be end of life, end of support? So if they, I suppose, and Stan, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you were to buy appliances now and you want to add in 2 years from now and those appliances are no longer available, what to do then?
Yeah, a part of the answer is also our mix and match feature, of course, because then we can mix appliances in the same security group.
Okay, so
that's
upgrade to R81. That's basically the answer.
Yeah,
in short. Of course, if the appliances that you do have are end of support, we need to replace them anyway, and that is for any appliance. Hope this answers your question, Stan. We have another one. If you have 10 appliances now, how do you replace them all at once?
The thing is that with mix and match, you can then add an additional appliance, and when that appliance is up and running, you could remove the old appliances.
Yeah, so you can replace them all one by one.
Yeah,
starting the Correct. New version.
Yeah, because you also need to make sure that when you're replacing it, that there is enough members left to process the traffic.
Okay. And what would you do right now if that was the case? Could you remove all appliances from a security group and then add different appliances, and then there will be downtime? But
that's also an option.
All right, so it will have a downtime when it switches from the one appliances to the other, but you could remove them all and then put different ones in. Yep. And it will keep all the configuration. That's cool.
It will keep the configuration.
All right. Well, thank you, anonymous attendee, for that remark. Any other questions? So no, okay. Then in that case, feel free to still ask them. In that case, so thank you, Steve, for this clear and good presentation. I want to remind everyone that we will have a session at March 31st at InfoSecurity. So please find us at InfoSecurity. There will be a will be a Checkpoint virtual booth as well. And it will be about navigating cloud native security in a multi-cloud era. And if we don't see you there, we will have another session the first Thursday of the next month, which then will be already May. So if we don't see you at InfoSecurity, we'll see you again in May. So thank you all for participating, and I guess we'll see you in the next one. So bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. So, and if you have some more questions, Steve and I will be here for a little bit longer, just in case.